Good afternoon. I hope you are having a great Wednesday so far. This morning, I was on YouTube watching some tax videos on the One Big Beautiful Bill. There's some planners I like who are going over some more nuanced topics. And a video popped up. You know how the next one will just start auto-playing. And this one was titled, How Much Do You Need to Live Off of Dividends Alone in Retirement? And that prompted this podcast episode today. So before we get into it, remember, this is not personal legal advice. This is not personalized tax advice. This is not personalized investment advice. This is general financial information. Okay. Today's episode, why I hate dividends. Hate may be a strong word. I do not like dividends, particularly in the portfolio of somebody who is retired. If you're working, if you're earning, you're accumulating assets. I still don't love dividends, but I don't hate them as much in your situation. But if you are in your retired years, whether you're in your 50s or your 80s, I do not like dividends. I do not try to optimize for dividends in anybody's portfolio. In fact, I actively try to limit dividend income. For clients using their portfolio as retirement income, I try to limit their dividend income as much as possible. Here are 4 reasons why I try to do that. 4 reasons why I do not like dividends at all as it pertains to an investment portfolio. Number 1, and this is more of a personalized reason, but number 1 is people need to get used to the idea of selling stocks. We need to acquire the mental fortitude of watching our portfolios go down at some point in our life. We need to see the number of shares decrease, and we need to be content being flexible. The reason I say that is it seems to me retirement is much more peaceful when we are comfortable with that idea, and when we acknowledge our need to be flexible in this way. Dividends, they sometimes give people an idea that they'll never have to do this, that they'll never need to sell any stocks. They'll never need to adapt this level of flexibility. And I think they'll never give themselves the opportunity to find this added level of serenity. Not to mention that you just don't spend enough on what you enjoy. You don't give enough to people who might need it, and you would end up with way too much money if your mission is to die with zero or a lower balance if you're living on dividends. People need to get used to selling stocks, and I think dividends tend to discourage people from doing that. That's number 1. Number 2, this is shorter, but financial news outlets seem to talk about dividends like it is magic money, like it is more money than you would have had if the company did not pay out the dividend, when in reality, it is just a different form of appreciation. In fact, it is a less efficient form of appreciation, which brings me to my next point. Number 3, dividends in taxable brokerage accounts. By the way, I don't despise dividends as much if they're in retirement accounts. If it's in your IRA, it's in your Roth, then I don't care as much because the tax treatment within those accounts doesn't matter very much. But dividends in taxable brokerage accounts are not efficient. Taxable dividends fill up our taxable income. This is a problem for our brokerage accounts. This is also a problem for our other retirement accounts. I will start with brokerage accounts. In a brokerage account, I want the tax flexibility to sell long-term capital gains at favorable rates. So if I'm trying to fill up the 0% long-term capital gains bracket, I want some room to do that. If maybe I sold some businesses and most of my wealth are in brokerage accounts, and maybe I'm trying to fill up the 15% bracket every year, I want the flexibility to do that as well. And I want to fill up these brackets with positions that have considerable gains, right? If I'm going to fill up my tax brackets with taxable brokerage accounts, I want to try and do it with securities that have really appreciated, right? I want to sell the ones that have appreciated the most if I can help it, so that they don't continue to run and I have a huge taxable gain somewhere down the road. The problem with dividends is it is filling up my buckets. It's filling up my brackets with these tiny little gains. There's really not a lot to them, right? And it's just cluttering up what we're trying to do as far as we want to fill our brackets, our buckets, with larger appreciated assets. That's why I don't like them for taxable brokerage accounts. And for the same reason, they have a negative impact on our retirement accounts. We are trying to fill up our Roth conversions, maybe with 12% bracket, 22% bracket, 24% bracket. And as we're doing this, we don't want unnecessary income cluttering up our conversions. We don't want these unnecessary dividends, these tiny little gains filling up our bracket, when that could mean that we could have converted more money out of our Roth into our IRA if we had less dividends and taxable brokerage accounts. So that is why, I guess that was 3 reasons. The last one was kind of two-parter. But those are 3 reasons I really don't like dividends as it pertains to an investment portfolio. Largely because they are not flexible when it comes to optimizing your taxes. Now, we cannot avoid all dividend income. That is essentially impossible. Even index funds, you're going to have some dividends. What can we actually do about this? Because I don't want our pursuit of limiting dividend income to change up our asset allocation very much. I don't want it to impact how we are actually invested as far as how much equities we hold, how much fixed income we hold. But if we can help it, it would be prudent to keep our dividend income in accounts where it's not realized as income, in our retirement accounts. So if we can help it, it would make sense to keep our higher dividend index funds, maybe like the S&P with a lot of value stocks, inside of our retirement accounts, or at least weighted more in that direction. Whereas stocks that tend to give less of a dividend, like tech stocks, if we were to hold things like the NASDAQ in our brokerage accounts. So if we can focus our dividend income to our retirement accounts and really try and limit it in our brokerage accounts, based on what we hold where, then we can really limit our dividend income without necessarily needing to alter our portfolio allocation. So those are 3 reasons, not 4, I guess. I do not like dividends as it pertains to an investment portfolio. 1, I think people need to get used to the idea of selling stocks, and dividends discourage that. 2, people think of dividends like they are magic money, when that is not the case at all. Number 3, dividends are not taxably efficient. They limit our ability to fill up long-term capital gains brackets with bigger gains by taking up space with tiny little gains. And they also limit our ability to make Roth conversions. Those are 3 reasons why I try to avoid, if I can help it, taxable dividends and taxable brokerage accounts. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you later.